Who's friends with all the night dreamers, talking to you at night? Gary on the radio, but maybe he's not in sight. Bigfoot's on his tail, flying UFOs, that's right. Gary's Talk Show Radio, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday nights. If you need a friend to talk to, he will always be there. The Night Dreamers Talk Show will fix your despair. If you want to talk conspiracies, Night Dreamers is for you. Top secret case, alien space, it's Gary with the news. Tune in on the radio, don't let Big Brother know. They're listening to everything, even Gary's late night show. If you need a friend to talk to, he will always be there. The Night Show Dreamers Talk Show will fix your despair, because Gary's talking to you at night.
You are listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio Network, the home of Night Dreams Talk Radio, with Gary Anderson, syndicated worldwide. Paranormal Talk Radio, like you remember.
Well, it is the 6th of February, and I'll tell you what, 2 weeks ago, it was orbs, JC, all over the news. We just couldn't get away from talking about orbs. If you went on TikTok or you went on anywhere, it was orbs, 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 and all that. Now it's about Washington, D.C., Social Security, Medicare, foreign aid taking over another country and make it ours. I don't know what is going on, but I can tell you it's going to be an interesting ride this year. What do you think?
It could be bumpy. It may be bumpy, and I don't even have seatbelts in my car. Do you?
You don't have seatbelts in that car?
No, it's pre-70.
Wow. Boy, I don't even have a motor in mine. I got 2 horses, and I got, my carriage, and I just go up and down to the store with that.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, you're one step below Flintstone then if you got the carriage.
Time reversal might be possible in the future. You know that.
That's what I hear. Listen, there's a lot going on with that. It's kind of fascinating, actually.
Well, in quantum physics, they have talked for years that there could be no going back in time, let alone going in the future. It just couldn't happen. But, just recently, they have now come up with another theory, which really is supported, that you got positive time and you got negative time. So, in the future, maybe we can go back, go forward.
Yeah, listen, that could open up a whole possibility of things, maybe a whole Pandora's box if you're not careful. But yeah, apparently they've witnessed protons going into a material, but before they even enter, they're exiting.
That's really interesting, too. And you think about the paradox, if you went back, and you killed your grandfather, that you wouldn't exist. Now they're saying, actually, it could be self-correcting where, you still would exist, maybe in a parallel universe, another timeline. So this is going to get really interesting in the future.
I'm telling you, listen, that opens up a lot of possibility. It really makes your mind expand and explode when you start thinking about all this stuff.
Yeah, don't drink when you think about it, though.
No,
because I could tell you that really might explode. Another thing, there's a black hole in our galaxy that they witnessed a big, star go into it back a few years ago. And they figured, once it goes into a black hole, that's the end of it. But now they're seeing light coming back out of this black hole, and that, it's spitting out the planet or the star.
And, that's a whole other subject, too, with these black holes. They think they got the answers. I don't think we even scratched the surface of what we know about black holes, because look over our show every year or so, we got new information coming out about black holes and contradicting it, does this, does that. Because remember, it used to say if it goes in, that's it. You never see it nowhere. But now it's spitting it out.
Yeah, but again, it depends on what scientists you talk to, because some of them say, it's impossible. If it goes in the black hole, that's the end of it. But again, this is being documented that something is coming out of a black hole. So I don't know. That is really interesting. This year is going to be really interesting. You know that. We're advancing so fast in AI and all that. And again, it happened to me again last night. I was watching a commercial, and I swore this woman was beautiful. And then at the very end, it said it was generated by AI. I couldn't tell the difference.
They got music videos that are almost the same way all over YouTube. I thought I was watching a real one, and it was like,
See, you fell for it too.
yeah, and they're AI and like AI using AI with actors, real ones. It looks like them, but it's a little bit off.
That's what I've been saying for the last couple of months, but technology is advancing so fast. They even had robots now that actually can make decisions, and we're moving so far in the future. I don't know. It's just we're advancing.
Yeah, one day you're going to call an Uber, and the car's going to be the robot.
Well, maybe we can replace the Congress and the Senate and the White House with all AI.
Yeah, that'll get voted down.
Oh, you don't need to vote for anything anymore, evidently.
No, it's already set in motion. Yeah.
But could you imagine going back in time and going forward in time? What would happen if we then went back and assassinated Adolf Hitler? Could we then created another timeline which could make it totally worse than we are now?
Or because it affects millions of people over 70 years, maybe it created a bunch more Hitlers. I mean, who knows?
I don't know. Maybe it already has. But, again, my headache is just starting to come on just thinking about this. Tonight we have a great show. We got a great guest. We're going to be talking about the Maya civilization, how they grew and what happened to them and how big they were. You look at the Roman Empire, how far they advanced, and a lot of other civilizations has come and gone. But this civilization has always amazed me how far they advanced, and then they pretty much totally disappeared. So we're going to have that right after Guy Ticker with the news. We're going to have Ed, and we're going to be talking about the Maya civilization right here on Night Dreams Talk Radio. Let's do the news with Guy Ticker, and then we'll get really exciting about the show here tonight. So stay tuned.
Diving into the headlines of the mysterious and unexplained, this is the Unseen News with Guy Ticker, where the extraordinary is just the beginning. Scientists studying alien mummies from Peru claim the bodies are 100% real after new details emerge. The alien mummies discovered in Peru have largely been dismissed as a hoax by the scientific community, but researchers studying the specimens believe otherwise. Dr. Jose Zalce, former director of the Mexican Navy Medical Department, has analyzed 21 of the strange bodies, finding fingerprints, bone wear, dental formations, muscular features, and internal organs, proving they're 100% real biological organisms. He even claimed some were pregnant, making them, quote, impossible to fake or replicate fraudulently, so said Zalce, who has testified under oath that the mummies are real following his 6 years of work with them. He estimated that the remains of a mummy named Montserrat are from 1200 to 1600 years old. Joyce Mantilla, a Peruvian journalist, believes the mummies are remains from an unknown species of hominin due to having some physical characteristics of a human, while its hands, facial features, elongated skull, and feet are completely different. Montserrat was found with a metallic-like object on its head that Mantilla said was placed on the body while it was alive. They have been placed on the skin using a technique that we still do not know, he said. In some cases, like Montserrat, the skin has been seen to have grown around the implant. This gives us the understanding that these implants were used while the subject was still alive. And that wraps up tonight's top news stories. I'm Guy Ticker on the Night Dreams Talk Radio Network. An archaeologist and an explorer specializing in ancient civilizations of the Americas. Dr. Ed Barnhart is the director of the Maya Exploration Center, host of the ArchaeoEd Podcast, and lecturer on the ancient history of North, Central, and South America. Dr. Ed Barnhart is in part known for his groundbreaking work on ancient astronomy, mathematics, and calendar systems.
Well, Ed, it would help if I turned the microphone on. I was so excited listening to your bio, I forgot to turn the microphone on. You know, the civilization of the Mayas is so unique, isn't it, compared to a lot of other civilizations?
Hello, Gary. Thanks for inviting me on. Yes, I absolutely. Admittedly, I'm kind of Team Maya, but I think they have a lot of unique qualities and a lot of things that they actually share in common with our other great ancient civilizations. That I think that a lot of people don't appreciate all the things that they did.
When did the civilization of the Mayas? Have we been able to trace back when they roughly started?
You know, archaeology likes to put these, culture names to different phases of human development in places all around the world. So, Maya is one of these terms. How far we go back in human history of Mexico and Central America, and still call the people there Maya, is a funny question, because there were people long before this civilization started to sprout. The name Maya, archaeologically, I'd say that it's around 1600 BCE that we really start. Everybody agrees those people are Maya people doing Maya things. There's a culture in southern Guatemala and Chiapas, an area called the Soconusco, that is a couple hundred years before that. They start making pottery, and we call those people the Mokaya, at least in literature. For my money, I'm a lumper, not a splitter, so I think that we can call these folks Maya for a long time earlier than that. There's this cool cave in Yucatan, Loltun Caves, and it has a bunch of charcoal paintings where someone put their hand on the wall and spit charcoal around it. And it is there are a bunch of small hands, which either means that they're children that are of like my height, or they're more Maya stature people. So for my money, the Maya as a people have been there for 12,000 years. But archaeology starts calling the Maya around 1600 BCE.
What other civilization do you think they could have branched out with before that?
Well, again, civilization's a loaded term. We kind of, before these great civilizations of Mesoamerica, the Maya being one of them, start sprouting, we archaeologists call it the archaic period, where people are living in a much more basic fashion and not in such large numbers. They're basically hunters and gatherers who get better and better at growing corn. And corn, among other things, there's the trigger for them to live in much larger groups that we call civilization. So, I don't think that we name a civilization before the Maya and their contemporaries, being the Olmec and the Zapotec and the people in central Mexico.
What type of civilization were there? Because, I've read and seen movies and stuff that, they were very advanced with their technology. But on the other side, too, they were very, very cruel to human beings.
Well, they were very advanced in a lot of ways, and it didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen suddenly. Archaeology shows, a progression of how they developed a mathematical system. From there, they developed a calendar system. From there, they studied astronomy and its connection to space and time. So those progress. And yes, they were, in kind of the Western eyes, in some regards, a violent civilization. The Maya, not so much. A lot of times we lump together the Aztecs to the Maya. And there's a spectrum there where I'd say that the Maya and the Olmec are on much more the peaceful end of it. Just not violence is the answer, to the Aztecs being on the other side, who were just constantly sacrificing someone or going to war or performing these rituals that involved bleeding and cutting.
Ripping out people's hearts.
The Maya sometimes get unfairly lumped in with the Aztecs.
But did they do sacrifices also?
They did, but not at the scale of the Aztecs. And when it was sacrifices, it was usually enemy warriors captured during battle and brought back to their cities to sacrifice in a very ritual and limited scope.
Very interesting. Did they sacrifice for their farming and stuff like that, and the weather and stuff like that?
I'm not sure, honestly, that archaeology knows that we can say for sure why they were sacrificing. We believe that it was done to appease the gods, which is kind of an archaeological cop-out. That's kind of glosses over the details of how and why that pleased their gods. The Aztecs are much more specific about why their gods need blood sacrifice. It's tied into their very creation story, where it's the sacrifices that the gods make that start the world, and they expect the Aztecs to return the favor with continued sacrifices. For the Maya, we're not exactly, we don't have that much information about what they thought about their sacrifices, why they did them. In the classic period for the Maya, really the most austere sacrifices were self-sacrifices, bloodletting that the kings would do, and they'd burn that blood to create a smoke conduit up into the sky where they'd connect with their ancestors who lived on the same planes as the gods, and they would send messages back and forth through that ancestor medium, but it was about their own blood sacrifice rather than killing someone else.
Very interesting. Now, weren't they one of the most advanced civilizations in the ancient world?
Well, I guess I will respin my record and say advanced is also a very loaded term. How do we define advanced? I have always seen it as kind of a yardstick of are they the masters of certain technologies, of science and mathematics? And for a while, we did not know that the Maya were so good at that. But now, especially when it comes to the subject of astronomy, they stand toe-to-toe with any other ancient civilization in their knowledge and database that they created their cycles from. So in that regard, yes, they're very advanced.
Well, from the standpoint, didn't they have sewer systems, water systems, irrigation systems, and all, again, their pyramids they built, and cities and roads and all this stuff. I mean, they, for their time frame, were very, very advanced.
Hydraulic engineering, as you just mentioned, one of the things they excelled at. There's amazing examples of all sorts of different interesting techniques that they used in terms of hydraulic engineering, both in creating aqueducts and water pressure and huge reservoirs. But, the yardstick of advanced, somebody might say, well, the Maya never used metal. They never got to even, bronze level, much less iron. This is true. And if that's a yardstick you use to judge cultures and ancient civilizations with, well, there's one they never did. They really never became masters of metallurgy. They also never created the wheel, which in part is explained through their lack of beasts of burden, but I don't think it completely explains it. A guy likes a wheelbarrow too.
Yeah. Well, it's better than square wheels, I'll tell you that. But if you really think about, some of these ancient civilizations, the technology, the things they were able to create, and then the lack of creation, it just astounds me how far they advanced. Back, maybe now going about 8 years ago, I knew somebody at Flow Industries. I don't know if you know who Flow Industries are. They're the ones that perfected precision high powered water cutting to the point of being very accurate. And when I talked to them, I talked to one of their head engineers years ago, because we were talking about the pyramids. How could these blocks be done? And if we wanted to make a pyramid, be it Maya civilization one or the other ones, that Could we do it with our most advanced technology? And his answer is no. We don't have the capability to be accurate and put these and assemble these things like they were done with the pyramids or the Maya pyramids. We just don't have that technology to do it.
Well, I mean, that's his opinion, I suppose. I kind of feel firmly that we definitely have that technology today. We have huge machinery and
what he was saying to
laser cutting, and we definitely could build a pyramid today.
But we don't have the technology to build in that type of size. Yes, we are advancing in laser cutting and laser technology. And I'm shocked what we can do in laser technology at this point. But you look at what they did by hand and created. And again, when you're talking about these big blocks and stuff like that, to cut them accurately, to put them together, especially in their time frame, it astounds me what they were able to do.
Well, it astounds me too. I mean, I've dedicated my life to it. I'm so astounded by it. But I choose to think that we just have not rediscovered these technologies. That these are, these kinds of mysteries in some regards are just job security for me.
Yeah.
Guys like me work our whole lifetime trying to explain exactly how they did these things, but I do believe that they are within the capacity of the human spirit.
Yeah, but look at their time frame and our time frame. That is what astounds me, that a civilization that doesn't have metal capabilities, or as you said, the wheel, could create what they have created. And the civilization that branched out so far, like we were talking before we went on the air, that their civilization in the Amazon has been found in cities, huge cities in the Amazon, recently found. Again, it's astounding how far they were able to branch out their civilization.
There is amazing things being found down there in the Amazon. I'm so thrilled by that research. And, we don't even really have proper names for those civilizations. They and the Maya are not the same folks. They're, geographically much closer to the Andean civilizations, which they almost certainly interacted with on a regular basis. But yeah, I mean, we are finding more and more and more in the Amazon. It's pretty exciting. And the scale of some of the things we're finding. Now, you were just talking about a city that I've been seeing this too on the internet, that there's some really neat LiDAR images of a city that looks to have big squarish and rectangular buildings and somewhat of a street grid. It's got like a main street and roads coming off of it. That one I've really got my eye on. I've been reading everything I can read about it, but so far I haven't. I'm dying to see somebody go there and really ground truth it. There's just a little bit of survey that's been done out there, so that's a big exciting one.
Is that something in the future you'd want to go physically go see in?
Oh, sure, I would love to. I mean, I am getting up in years. I've gotten to the point where I'm thinking, what I ought to do is send some of my apprentices out there, and then they can send me some pictures. I've been tromping around the jungle for 35 years of my life now. That I know how daunting it would be to get out there.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's safe anyway to go out there at this point.
Almost never is.
No, again. Going on their calendar system back years ago, everybody, because the computers at one point had a stop point, which everybody is freaking out. What is going to happen? And then they go back to their calendar system of the Mayas, and people were freaking out. I remember that. I'm at the age, I'm in my 70s. I remember that dearly. People were scared. Is it going to be end of times? Because their calendar systems, stopped at a certain point. What was your take on that?
Oh, that is my specialty, the calendars and math. And so I never really believed that the Maya had said there would be an end in 2012. I think that was just a misunderstanding from our Western perspective and assuming their cycles worked in a way that they didn't.
Well, it sure had a lot of people freaked out. I can tell you that. A lot of scientists right down the line, they didn't have answers. So, I mean, we have that.
Well, there was a lot of fear. And there was also the crowd that were very optimistic about it. They felt that we were going to reach total consciousness and become a better species. We neither found our end nor enlightenment. We're moving on from 2012. Gosh, what are we? 13 years. That's a good Maya number. We're 13 years ago. The supposed Maya predicted end of the world was going to happen. The problem was that the cycle that we thought was going to end then, it was a false positive. The Maya really didn't ever say that the next creation was going to start in 2012. We made a mathematical assumption that from the start of the fourth creation, if we went 13 more 400-year periods, that it would be the beginning of the fifth creation. But that's the Maya never said that. We were looking at it like a clock on our wall that keeps turning, where they are looking at it, or we were looking at it as a cycle that would reset. But their calendar system is designed like ours, that it can go for, near infinity into the future or the past based on our math system. The Maya had such a math system, and that calendar was never designed to have an end.
Very interesting. Well, at least you explained that. But do you think they predicted the end of the world? Again, time is irreverent. We got, as I was mentioning at the beginning of the show, positive, negative time. They're all coming up with different things in quantum physics. Could they just been off maybe a little bit on their calendar? Could they still predicted the end of the world?
I don't think so. And I don't think so because the Maya look at time differently than the Western eyes do. They talk about, the Maya, it's not within their nature to point to a single point in the future and say this will definitively happen. They look at time as a cycle. They say again and again in their texts, what's happened before will happen again. And they set up these time periods in 20-year increments called katuns. Each katun is supposed to have its own nature, and it goes through 13 of them, and it resets. So there's no, it's not in their nature to reach far out on the timeline and say, that's a moment of finality. That's what when we Westerners think about, if I asked a typical person in the United States to draw me time, they would probably draw a line with now and the future on one side and the past on the other. But if you asked a Maya to draw time, they would draw a circle, a cycle, and say that it always comes back around, kind of like the clock on our wall.
Yeah, I guess that does make sense. We're going to have to take a break. We'll be back with Ed here in about 4 minutes. You're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio. Check out our website for more information about tonight's guests at nightdreamstalkradio.com. We'll be right back, so don't go anywhere. Get yourself something nice and hot to drink. Get in that easy chair, prop up your legs, because we're going to take you for a real ride here tonight on Night Dreams Talk Radio. So stay tuned.
Something in the way you smiled was scaring me. You turned away so awkwardly. Try to change the subject before you could even speak. Then suddenly my knees grew weak. Trying so hard not to see the writing on the wall. Don't wanna hear you say that we're done once and for all. What can I do? What can I say? I'm trying to keep
time slips. A haunted office building on a haunted street. A haunted coal town. Mysterious black cats. Unexplained light anomalies. UFOs, UAPs in the air and on the ground. Bridges in liminal spaces. Cryptids, shamans, and a werewolf. Disclosure: you don't need a ranch in Utah. All this and more happens in rural southwestern Pennsylvania. Coming soon from Haunted Hills and Hollows 1 and 2 author Kevin Paul, Politics and the Paranormal in Greene County, Pennsylvania. Available this fall on Amazon and at other fine booksellers.
You're listening to my friend Gary Anderson on My Dreams Talk Radio, the best in paranormal radio.
Welcome to Night Dreams Talk Radio with the legendary Gary Anderson. From UFOs to Bigfoot and everything in between, we explore the strange, the mysterious, and the unexplained. Join us for one of the fastest growing shows in the world of the unknown.
And we are back with Dr. Ed. You know, again, when we talk about these civilizations, you know, like the Maya, again, it is so much. How could they have created, you know, the farming and all this other stuff, but yet they could never come out and discover metals, or in my case, the rubber wheel. I mean, how come, you know, they were so far advanced and everything else, but they couldn't come out with that?
I don't think it's so much that they couldn't, they just didn't. They were playing with basic metals. They had silver and gold, not the Maya, but their neighbors were working with it. I actually think that they got those tricks from South America, but no one actually got to the discovery of iron. Now, you mentioned rubber. That actually comes from them.
Oh, yeah.
First the Olmec, then the Maya, that area, they created rubber, and that is such an essential part of our lives today. And I think a lot of people, maybe in your audience, don't know that rubber came from the Maya area.
Yeah, and that is interesting how they could have done that. And again, you know, they didn't know bronze and brass and all that other stuff. That it just amazes me. But again, they were maybe focused on other things. But again, what was the purpose of building these pyramids?
Well, that's a big, deep question.
That is. That's why I asked you.
All over the world. I think that it was about creating a structure that was as tall as they could possibly make it. I'm sure there were religious reasons for that, connecting up to the gods in the sky. But I also think there was a real human element to it, that, you know, groups of people decided, you know, together we can do great things. Why don't we build something tall and huge that will be here, show people who we are in our life, and be here after we're gone? As far as the shape of the pyramid, well, you know, I think it's an experimentation inevitability. Before rebar and cement, if you wanted to build something that was as tall as you possibly could, that wouldn't just fall over, you end up making something with a very fat base going up to a very tippy top. Just like kids use blocks, you know, they build a couple of towers, they fall down, they end up building something fat at the bottom and skinny on the top, and more or less a pyramid.
Now, compared to the other pyramids, which we don't know, you know, the ones in Egypt and other parts of the world, was theirs basically for stars and our galaxy, our solar system, to try to whatever?
For the Maya?
Yes.
I don't think that many of them were really about astronomy first and foremost. I think that most of them were about connecting first and foremost to their ancestors, the people that had died and that they had a blood connection with, and to the gods themselves. As far as pyramids, they are mostly those two categories that we understand. Now, I'll be the first to admit that I don't think we have it all understood, all the purposes and reasons for those pyramids. But when we look at the hieroglyphs that are inside them, we look at the archaeology of what's physically inside these pyramids, most of it is about ancestor veneration.
Interesting. But again, the construction techniques, again, we were touching base on it. How could they still have built those massive pyramids and cities, again, without metal tools or the wheel and all that, and be able to create what they created?
Well, it's about the resources at hand and, their accessibility. I think that we classically think about the pyramids in Egypt and how far it took them to get that sandstone across the desert to that location. They had to float it down the Nile. They were using huge blocks from far away. The truth is, most of the Maya pyramids are built out of very local materials and bricks and blocks that are well within the carrying capacity of a single human being. There's the very early stuff that has some large blocks. We have monuments that are pretty large, but the pyramids themselves are built out of bricks that are made of limestone, and limestone is a relatively soft substance. With a hard wood stick burned at its tip, you can cut limestone out of a limestone quarry fairly easily and haul it chunk by chunk to a site. And a lot of places in the Maya world, the creation of the foundation of the city, the leveling out of the plazas, the digging of things like reservoirs were the initial quarries for the stone. So they would be bringing it person by person, perhaps, in a lot of cases, not more than a couple hundred yards to the actual build site. The water's there in abundance. Of course, they've got wood and organic products almost infinitely in that environment, but there's an availability of resources, and the scale of the construction materials, really the studies that are done are kind of deflating. I was working in the site of Copan in Honduras in the 90s when a grad student from Harvard named Chris Corelli was doing something that we call an energetic study, where she was actually physically timing and thinking about how long would it take to build one of these pyramids. And she had a bunch of poor guys she hired from Copan's village to just all day long run to the river, get a bucket of water, bring it up to the pyramid, run down there, get a brick, bring it up to the pyramid. And she estimated that a crew of around 50 people could build an average Maya pyramid in about 6 months.
Wow. I would think it would.
Now, shifts of 50. So, there were probably more people involved in the total crew, but those were small statistics, weren't they?
I would think it would take over a year or two to build,
at least. And in terms of Egypt, that's exactly what happened. But the studies of the resources are always so close to the Maya cities. They don't have to, go a long distance or exert. In fact, they were very smart about using the resources that were first right there to flatten out plazas, to create reservoirs, and the stone that came out of that was the initial phases of most of the buildings.
Oh, yeah. Now, another thing, too, when it came to farming, did they to the point that it got to the point where they couldn't grow enough food for their population? Because, there's a lot of talk out there that why the civilization started collapsing. because they overfarmed, or again, it could have been some type of virus that went off and a lot of people perished from that, and then they could not recover. What is your take on that?
There were definitely places at the end of the Maya Classic period that had over-farmed and over-clear-cut their area, and those areas, the crops failed or were insufficient to feed all the people that had gathered there. But the Maya area is big, so for every one area that's like that, like good examples are the Copan Valley or the area around Lake Yashha that totally silted in. But there's a lot of Maya civilization that was right on the major rivers, and they really didn't have a capacity problem, yet they still left their cities. So the farming or drought, it just doesn't explain the entire huge Maya civilization area all deciding to abandon their cities at around 7 to 800 AD, 8 to 900 AD. That time period is where hundreds of cities were abandoned. Some of them were about farming. There's not much in the way of evidence that it was epidemic disease. In that case, we'd expect to find, piles of bodies when the crisis really hit a peak that were being buried together, depending on the kind of disease. That we could also do, pathology studies on the skeletons to try to see that. To my knowledge, there's no indicator that there was any kind of mass disease that caused the abandonments.
Well, that is the interesting. Why would they abandon their great cities? Where did they go to? I know some of them went out to the jungles. They went out to other, but the thing is, there was a lot of population. It was huge. What happened to the population? And what was it? Something maybe it scared them? Maybe something when they were doing their stargazing that they thought maybe that, they had to get away from it. But, they didn't have the internet. They didn't have phones to call up or radio to say, hey, we got to get away from our cities. And then when their cities just started, being abandoned, something major had to influence them to leave. That's the part I haven't been able to figure out.
Well, me neither. Please let me know if you figure that out. I'm dying to know. No,
you don't want to use the word dying to know. You don't want to use that word.
Humans are complicated. And I don't think there's a single reason that this happened. I'll start off by admitting that archaeology has real blind spots. If, say, perhaps those cities, the population walked away because they were just sick of the despotic rule of kings, always telling them to go to war or to produce more and more for a growing opulent elite class. That's definitely one of our theories, that people just got sick of them and walked away. And if all the farmers of that, let's say, Tikal, simply went 30 kilometers further out and made their own little farm plots, we would never see it as archaeologists. That sort of information, dissolved and disappeared centuries ago.
Yeah, but again, too, their cities had so many, the population was so big, and then to abandon them. And even if they went out to create their own little, village or whatever they were doing, something had to, maybe again, they couldn't generate enough food to feed them. I don't know what it is, but it's like you look at the pyramids or the Sphinx. We don't have answers on that. And this is one of the type of things we just don't know. But yet then we find, like ruined cities pop up every so often. Again, like I said, how did they communicate? Did they all of a sudden abandon? I could see maybe one city or two cities or three cities abandon or go out. But again, all of them? That's kind of like, it's puzzling to me.
Me too. It was clearly a coordinated effort, as you say. They had a obvious communication system, and, cities that were the victors of the wars that occurred in the centuries before and the losers, they all left equally. You'd expect the winners to hang around and take everything, but they left as well. Places that had abundance of resources, they left it. places that had a dearth, they left it. Archaeology does see a general pattern that the depopulation of the center of the Maya world, which is kind of around the Petén rainforest of northern Guatemala, we see that there was a dispersal of people into the highlands of Guatemala and into the Yucatan Peninsula. We see not completely corresponding population increases, but increases nonetheless, that when the big cities were abandoned in the end of the Classic period, there were migrations north and south, and they flowered into what we call post-Classic Maya civilization.
Now, this all happened around the collapse around, what, 900 AD?
Yeah, between 800 and 900, really, I'd say, 800 to 850 is when the hundreds of them were abandoned. Then we have a couple outliers. There was the latest holdout was 909. That was Tonina in Chiapas. And the first one to peace out was my beloved city of Palenque. 799 is the last hieroglyphic text we have. And then the city goes dark.
That is so interesting, too. Now, didn't some cities thrive after the collapse of the civilization yet for a while?
There were a couple of holdouts like Tonina, but then pretty much all of those classic cities were abandoned and never repopulated again. There's a few places that kind of reborn continue on, but mostly we have new cities, or at least new management that pastes themselves over cities. Like Chichen Itza is one that just about anybody who knows anything about the Maya knows about Chichen Itza or has been there. That's a typical post-classic Maya city. It really starts up maybe 900 in earnest, and it burns out by 1225, I think, is the abandonment. That's post-classic, but archaeologists have now dug underneath that Chichen Itza city that we've been excavating and thinking we knew everything about for decades now. And there's classic period and even pre-classic period stuff under the plazas. So it appears that a new leadership at Chichen Itza pasted themselves over a much more ancient Maya community.
It sounds like it. And they were really advanced too. Everything like, stargazing to, everything, even with their artwork and all that type of, capabilities too for back at that time.
Oh, they really were magnificent artists. And, art is kind of timeless. But Chichen Itza did have what we term as an observatory. And it seems, for all practical purposes, to have been an astronomical observatory. The building fell apart in unfortunate ways before we really got to analyze all of its upper architecture. We think that it had a lot of windows that were looking at specific quadrants of the sky, and it probably had a team of priests who were looking out those windows and doing what really distinguished the Maya, which is writing down their data in books and handing it to a next generation. If there's any one single thing that allowed the Maya to develop these technologies and to develop such a huge knowledge base of astronomy and observations, it was their writing system. They could actually write and communicate to future generations of Maya and build upon their scientific knowledge until they reached incredible heights.
Very interesting too. Again, some researchers out there, which I mentioned to part of the show, and I know what your answer is going to be, but some of them really think that they were influenced by, I hate to say it, E.T. on the Maya civilization.
Hey, that's all right. This is your show. You talk about the E.T. I get it.
And I know you feel there's no connection, but, some of them feel that some of their texts and all that stuff kind of refers to another advanced civilization, either, from our planet or out there somewhere.
Well, I am one of the few guys on the planet that actually can practically read all these Maya texts. I spent years becoming what's called an epigrapher, someone who translates these, and we don't have all the texts read right 100%, but I'm fairly well in command of the literature, and I don't know any passage that I would clearly point to that references extraterrestrials in any way, and I also see no technology that I think was beyond the capacity of the Maya, to the point where I'd be looking for another explanation of how they figured it out.
Why were they so interested in the heavens, the stars, the galaxy?
Well, I think that they were looking at the cyclical nature of time, and that they saw that, that big blanket of the stars and the dance that the planets, the moon and the sun were doing in front of it as keys to the cyclical nature of the cosmos and universe, and they studied them in an effort to harmonize with them and create their calendar through them.
Like folklore with other civilizations, carried down centuries and centuries and centuries. There's still, distant relatives to the Mayas out there. Have you interviewed any and got their take? And is there anything in their folklore that talks about the collapse of their culture?
Oh gosh, there really are a ton of Maya people still out there.
Yeah.
The estimates that are published, I think, are low. I think there's somewhere around 15 million Maya still living on the planet today, and many of them are following their traditions. There are people who are interested in astronomy and the calendar. There's an association of over 6,000 Maya priests that are called day keepers, in their language, Aki. And they keep the days of the calendar, and they think about the passage of the moon and the sun, and sometimes they talk about the planets. So there's a big knowledge base that's still out there. As far as why their civilization collapsed, modern Maya people that I've spoken to, they refer to it as a repeated cycle, that civilizations come and fall, and that they see the end of great cycles and the beginnings of new cycles as times of change and transformation. One of the things I love about both the ancient and the modern Maya people is their feeling that we need to have agency as the people who change, that life is going to change no matter what when cycles come to an end and new ones begin. But that if we can identify those cycles and anticipate them, we can be the agents of our own change instead of the victims of it, or, just not in the driver's seat. They see it as opportunities for transformation and renewal, as they call it.
Again, with all your investigation and research in this, what would you like to see, and what would you like to have come out about the civilization? What would you like to, come up with?
Oh gosh, there's so many things that I would love to see us uncover. Of course, I'm a big fan of the art. Every time a new temple's mural is uncovered, I can't wait to see it, because I love the way they depict life. But I wish we had more books. We've got 4 surviving Maya books on the planet, maybe a 5th one that's somewhere over in Prague. But we know that they had thousands and thousands of books. Wouldn't it be amazing to find just, one intact library?
Oh, yeah, it would. How many more do you think cities exist out there that we'll find in the future as we advance in our technology to, spy on our planet? Do you think we're going to find more cities?
Oh, I absolutely do. I mean, just confining that statement to the Maya world, we know there are big cities out there. I personally found a city when I was in my 20s. And one of my colleagues, Ivan Sprach, good Lord, he's up to like a dozen cities he's found in the Campeche jungle. And you know, it's funny, there are things that were found by the explorers in the 1920s and the 1930s that were just documented on their horseback expedition, and we've never gone back to them. I mean, not only are there hundreds more cities to find, there are dozens of cities we just need to get back to.
We do. We need to spend money more than less on war and weapons and find out about our lost civilizations of this planet. Now, you got a podcast. Why don't you share that with the listeners before I let you go? And do you have a website you can share?
Oh, thanks for the opportunity. Yes, my podcast is called ArchaeoEd. It's me, not guests. It's just me 30 minutes at a time talking about the civilizations of the Americas. Sometimes I tell adventure stories of my times down there. Sometimes it's kind of a history lesson about some aspect. But it's just me having fun and kind of being, not behind the lecture podium. I'm just talking like I'm talking to a friend, like I'm talking to you, Gary.
Well,
now, my day job is I'm the director of Maya Exploration Center, which is a research and education center based on, yes, the Maya, but really we've gone global. And we do things like lectures for the public. We have a lot of resources online for folks about the Maya calendar and other things. But we mostly do educational tours around the world. We bring people to the ruins. We give them evening lectures, and we talk them through the ruins with local folks. So I love doing that work. That's good stuff. Lately, our latest initiative is we're going to try to make a textbook. We're going to try to make a textbook called Before the Americas, that's going to not talk about the contact period and not talk about what happened to the Americas after contact, but back it up a couple hundred years and start there about what were the civilizations before European contact. I'd love to see that at the high school level.
We need it, actually, probably at the junior high school level, to be honest with you. You know, everything has come out in the last 10 years. Everything I learned in grade school, junior high school, and college really makes me really think that I was taught the wrong stuff, because we advanced so much, and technology and finding out about worlds and cultures and all this stuff has so much changed. Again, you name your podcast before I let you go.
ArchaeoEd, available anywhere you find podcasts.
Well, hey, Ed, I want to appreciate you coming on. I really enjoyed having you on. We did learn a little bit about, the Maya civilization here tonight.
Thanks so much for having me, Gary. It was a pleasure. Invite me back anytime.
Okay, my friend, you have a great weekend. It's coming up, okay?
You too.
Okay. Well, JC, who do we have tomorrow? What are we going to be talking about tomorrow?
Well, tomorrow we have Mr. Ron James coming on, and he's going to be talking about whistleblowers, drones, disclosure, and everything else that's going on with the UFO field.
That's going to be really interesting. So, again, tell your friends about us. Tell them that you can catch us live on YouTube Thursday to Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. But on March, we're going to be on Thursday, Friday, and Saturdays with great guests, and we're going to dive deeper into it. I hope you like what I still don't have it totally perfected, but we kind of put some more camera systems in, and we did some little stuff with graphics to try to make the show a little bit more enjoyable to you, the viewer, on YouTube. And again, about an hour after the show airs tonight, we'll be live, or not live, we're like Memorex on tape. We'll be on all the apps. So if you didn't catch all of the show, you can go to iHeart, Apple, Speaker, any of those, and listen to the complete show. Again, if anybody wants to make a donation, help support the show, that is very critical, because putting a show on like this is not cheap, is it, JC?
No, it's not. So every little bit helps. It helps provide funds to get great guests and great material. And plus, you have a great soundtrack that you play.
Yeah, we do. The bumper music, I played Phil Collins, and we're going to play a little Carly Simon tomorrow. We're going to play another Phil Collins and a Channel 13 and a band. We got some great music all lined up here, for bumper music on the show. So I hope you enjoy it. I like doing talk radio like you remember of the 80s and 90s because, again, The show should be all family oriented, where you want to be part of the family. Again, to everybody that was on chat here tonight, Art and Barb and December and all those out there in Chase, I want to thank you for being on chat. It means a lot to me that you take time out of your life to listen and watch the show. JC, is there anything you want to say? Have you found your next guest for your next podcast for your show or anything yet?
Yes, matter of fact, Mr. Bill Hall is going to be on. He wrote a book about the Bridgeport, Connecticut poltergeist. Very fascinating. Going to be a good one.
It sounds like it. Well, till tomorrow, we're going to be on full 2 hours tomorrow, again, talking with Ron about his documentary. We're going to talk about orbs, disclosure, UFOs, UAPs, flying discs. Well, my first wife threw a dish at me, too. We're going to talk about flying dishes. So it's going to be a great show. Again, please share us with your friends. Tell them about us. By the way, we're almost at 225,000 subscribers on YouTube alone. And the last couple of shows, we've been hitting near 1 million up on all the apps, JC. I'm just excited.
Yes, we are growing substantially. Let me tell you, we are really growing fast. Matter of fact, I can't keep up with it. So that's a good thing.
Oh, yeah. And you know what? One of the shows we put on like about 3 weeks ago on YouTube has over 80-some thousand views talking about Bigfoot.
Yes, 87,000 views and growing, Mr. Adam Davies.
Yeah, and that one is actually over 1.some million down on the internet. So, again, we try to bring great guests. Well, till tomorrow, everybody have a good one. We will catch you on the other side, wherever that's at.
Who's friends with all the night dreamers, talking to you at night? Gary on the radio, but maybe he's not in sight. Bigfoot's on his tail, flying UFOs, that's right. Gary's Talk Show Radio, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday nights. If you need a friend to talk to, he will always be there. The Night Dreamers Talk Show will fix your despair. If you want to talk conspiracies, Night Dreamers is for you. Top secret case, alien space, it's Gary with the news. Tune in on the radio, don't let Big Brother know. They're listening to everything, even Gary's late night show. If you need a friend to talk to, he will always